Hey you, BMW driver. What's that in your rearview mirror? It's the 2013 Cadillac ATS, today's video road test, and the closest hit yet on BMW's lofty handling standard. I'm Marty Padgett, the editorial director for the Car Connection and Motor Authority, and I've spent about 1,000 miles now with the new ATS, rear drive, all-wheel drive, 6-cylinder, 4-cylinder, manual, and automatic. When all is said and done, Cadillac finally has the 3 Series number, and it all starts with styling. Now, there's not much art and science left in the ATS. In truth, if you look at it from some angles, there's more Germanic proportion in it than ever. But there's still enough crispness in its profile and enough V-shaped details to distinguish it from the BMW, not to mention the C-Class and the Infiniti G. It's definitely a more relaxed look than the first Art and Science Cadillacs, but there's still some edge, particularly at the headlamps and in the big, bold grille, where there's a huge Cadillac emblem. The interior's not austere at all like some of the German cars. It's awash in blue light and iPad-like controls, which we'll talk about later. As we mentioned, there are a few powertrains available with the ATS, but no V8s. There's a base 2.5-liter 4-cylinder that's really best if you're looking for the best lease deal. There's a 272 horsepower Turbo 4 with a 6-speed manual or automatic, or there's this 6-cylinder with 321 horsepower, rear or all-wheel drive, and an automatic transmission. At best, the ATS can hit 60 miles an hour in about 5.4 seconds, right on the BMW's target. But what's most amazing about the ATS is its exceptional BMW-like handling. There's very little body roll and great straight-ahead tracking. Cadillac has spent a lot of time and attention on the ATS's steering and suspension design, and we think it outclasses everything in the class, even the BMW. It creates a real fog around the BMW's unquestioned #1 status, and there's a pervasive sense of composure in the ATS that really is kind of stunning. That's true whether you choose the versions with a conventional steel suspension or the versions with magnetic ride control. Now, a little earlier this year, we took part in the first press drive of the ATS on the brand new Atlanta Motorsports Park, a privateer track up in North Georgia. Take a look at what we did with the ATS, how we pushed it to near its limits, and how much fun we had with it. Now, the ATS has electric power steering, and it doesn't have a lot of feedback, but it does shadow your every movement. It makes everything feel just as natural as it can with this kind of system. Now, if you buy the Performance Package ATS, like the one we're driving here, you don't get magnetic ride control. Frankly, we don't think you'll miss it. The steel coil suspension is that well tuned. We think there's plenty of potential left in this package for something like, 470 horsepower ATS-V. The credit for all this great handling goes to a sophisticated multi-link suspension. It's more taut than a C-Class or an Audi A4, but still, the ATS doesn't thrum or tramline over bad road surfaces like, say, an Infiniti G37 can. There's also not a lot of body roll and not a lot of ride harshness to begin with, even with the 18-inch wheel package on some versions. We'd be wary of any larger wheels than that, though. Now, the ATS is a compact car. The front seats are really exceptionally comfortable. We think GM is really getting good at designing supportive, comfortable front seats with lots of adjustment. Cannot say the same thing for the back. The door cuts are small. It's difficult for big adults to get in, and when they're in, they won't find much legroom or headroom. The ATS's trunk is one of the smallest in the class, too. It's only about 10 cubic feet, hardly enough for a few bags. ATS comes with a lot of safety and luxury features like USB and Bluetooth. Some versions come with Cadillac's Q system. It's a new touchscreen interface that also has haptic feedback. You touch the screen, it gives you a little bit of sensation that you're touching controls. Those controls replace knobs and buttons. Now, there's some likeness to Ford's My Touch systems, but as you can see, GM's system is even cleaner, but not without its own problems. We've noticed in a couple of instances that Q resets itself, that it doesn't respond automatically to some feedback, and we've noted some problems with Bluetooth streaming. It is dazzling to look at, particularly on startup, but like other systems, Q can take a long time to learn how to use, and you may encounter a bug or two. So, what's the bottom line with the 2013 Cadillac ATS? With an unerring focus on handling, we think somebody finally has the 3 Series number. Now, for more information, read our full review at The Car Connection and follow us on Facebook at The Car Connection and Motor Authority, and on Twitter at Car Connection and The Real MA. I'm Marty Paget. Thanks for joining us.